Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And we are into the season. It is full on bloom everywhere, all elevations. So before it was the Verde, the Sedonas, Camp Verdes, Cottonwood, those areas, Jerome, they'd all bloom. They were starting to bloom. You all are always about, a week, 10 days ahead of us. On the other side of the hill, I would say Kirkland, Baghdad, Skull Valley, you folks, Hillside, you're about a week to 10 days. I know it's lower elevation, but we're all up in the mountains. It comes down to not elevation. It comes down to really your exposure. And so the Verde, you've got the east facing, you get the sun before the folks on the other side of the hill. They're a little bit cooler. There is a little bit of elevation change. Groom Creek. Okay, you all are at well above 6,000 feet. Highland Pines, all the way, Seligman, Ashfork, Williams, they're all sort of the same. So they might be a week to 10 days behind us, but it's all here. This storm, it warmed up after that storm last weekend, and boy, it has taken off. And so what's in bloom now, you're seeing forsythia, purple leaf plums, the wild cherries, flowering quince, the winter blooming jasmines, and you're seeing your hedges starting to leaf out. The roses are starting to go. Things are starting to actually grow. And you're seeing this actively happen by the day at this point. This is what spring's all about. This is why we love our 4-season climates. This is an opportunity right now. If you need privacy, you've got a new hot tub. Your neighbors, they just moved in, bought that house next to you, and they're harder to get along with, or they're trashy, or that contractor's got that pile of stuff back there that he's proud of, but it's ugly as can be. You just want to hide it. You don't want to put a fence. You want a living green fence. Now's the time to trim back those hedges that were planted maybe last year or older. You trim them back now, fertilize them, and they will take off a new growth. This is perfect timing so that you don't have this butchered, cut back stems coming up through the middle of the shrubs. Now's your time to cut them back, fertilize them so you can have this new growth hide all of that hedging you've been doing. If you need a new a privacy screen of some sort, now's the time to plant them. This is your best time to plant them. Can't emphasize that enough. I want to share a couple things. I thought of three kinds of trees, 3 kinds of native kind of plants, and 3 kinds of shrubs that are the perfect local plants. No matter your elevation, they're going to grow in all those cities I just mentioned, all those communities. They are all going to grow in any one of our places. Anywhere in the central part of Arizona, they're going to grow and thrive and grow fast. So, and then I'll tell you how to space them. And if you missed it, or you're on the road, you're driving, you can't take notes, you go, what did he say? If this is the podcast piece, I'm going to put the notes to this. I wrote a book called Privacy in the Secret Garden. I'm going to put the link to that free. You download it, read it at your leisure. It's got all the lists and all the math, how to space them, how to plant them, how to water them, how to get the most out of them, when to prune them, what I just mentioned. That'll be in the footnotes at the bottom. Download it. If not, you go to our website, hit the Learn button at the very top. Learn. Anytime we teach a class, we post those handouts up there, and the books are there. It's right front and center. You can't miss it. If you're looking, you can just go privacy screens. It'll be right there. But here's the 3 trees, 3 natives and 3 shrubs. And let's start with shrubs. I think the 3 that are most popular. The number 1 seller, red tip photinia. The new growth comes out red, and then it turns into this 12 by 12 by 12 big evergreen plant. Big leaves, not a needle. It's got a leaf to it. We call them broadleaf evergreens. And so that's very fast growing. It's good. It's number 1 seller. I don't know that I like it as much for myself. I don't have one of those in my yard. What I use is cotoneaster, or the way you spell it, cotton Easter. There's one that's really big, very fast. The animals just leave alone. Deer don't bother it. Doesn't get disease, doesn't get bugs like the red tip photinia does. But red clusterberry cotoneaster. That one is evergreen. Again, it's a broad leaf evergreen, has a leaf, not a needle, grows about 10 by 10 by 10, loves to be hedged. And the flowers will come out in just a few days. You get clusters of flowers that turn into clusters of red berries, which you still see some of those from last winter. It holds those berries all through autumn and winter, and then just comes back and reblooms and does it again. I like it because it's just less care. And it's related to our native cotoneaster that grows wild here, but it's a great shrub. And then the one I use as well is L.A. Agnes or silverberry. That's truly the native one. We sell both. There's truly the native one. It's got kind of blue foliage with a white leaf in the back. Gets up about 8 by 8 by 8. So it's substantial. The beauty with that one is once it gets up to size, you never have to water or care for it again. Just maybe give it a haircut. That's it. There's one that's related to that. It's also a silverberry. It's called Gilded Edge silverberry. We took the same native and we put a gold edge around it. So now it's variegated. It looks really good with those mocha colored rocks, that darker landscapes that's kind of popular right now. It shines, it pops better. Again, native. It adapts. Once it gets up to size, you never have to water or care for it again. It's great. There's 3 shrubs. 3 kind of native-y looking, upper kind of juniper looking things. I in my front yard, I use juniper. There's nothing tougher. I mean, junipers are you can't kill them. Animals don't eat them. Bugs don't get on them. They just adapt. They love growing here. We have huge forest of junipers. Now, you're having allergies right now because the native male junipers are pollinating the planet right now. I can feel my eyes itching right now, sneezing, coughing, just all those allergy things. For the love of gardening, if you're going to think about a juniper hedge, don't plant a male juniper. The females don't have the pollen. They just have the berries. They're cute as can be. They're voluptuous. They got the shape. They got the color. I mean, they got it going on. Those girls, they can fill in and look good and no allergies. The guys are the ones that cause all that yellow tinge, and they have this dust everywhere. So we only sell females here at Waters Garden Center. Look for females. We don't start them by seed, because if you start plants by seed, you get half of them will be males, half will be females. We go by cuttings. So now we get an exact copy of the perfect juniper that's a female. We can control all that. And so I personally use Spartan juniper. I'm up in the chaparral up above the high school here in town, and it's that chaparral, manzanitas and junipers and ceanothus, these native scrub oak areas. I've got a lot of blue. I needed some green. And so that one actually took off, and it looks fantastic with just the green. I've got a green hedge. Now, junipers, you get bigger size. So they'll go up easily 10, 15 foot tall. There's some that get bigger, but I like that. I needed about 15 feet in my front yard to create this courtyard where the fountains are, the birds are going around, butterflies. I needed some, and I staggered them, zigzagged them across. And so I used Spartan juniper. If you like more silver blue, the same exact model of that is Wichita blue juniper. It does very well too. Same. So again, about 15 feet tall, about 8 feet wide, thick as can be. It doesn't have a leaf. It's got a needle now. Now we're talking conifers. Conifers have needles. And so, but it fills in really fast, never gets any issues. So easy to grow. Anyone can grow them. It's a great choice. And then probably, what else could I go there? You got your Californians love your cypress. So cypress, I would say one that's probably better than the Italian cypress would be the Arizona cypress. That's the native one. Now this is a fast growing, goes up to about 25 feet by 12 foot wide. It's native, but again, has that juniper kind of look. It doesn't put a berry on like a juniper. It puts out a little tiny pine cone, the size of a golf ball. Then your 3 trees, Deador cedar. It's fast growing. It's a monster. It gets huge. It takes over entire yards. Small children, dogs have been lost in Deador cedar. Be careful. Don't plant it right next to the driveway. It'll be too close. It'll take over. It just gets too big. But one that's sort of like it, Colorado spruce. Now you wouldn't think that, but it's, perfect Christmas tree shape. Gets up, 50 feet by 15 feet wide. It's beautiful. And then pine trees, native pine trees, ponderosas, not so much for juniper for privacy because it's a trunk, but Austrian pine, Scotch pine, Deodor pine, pinyon pine. The pine trees, they grow thick, central leader. God, they're just a great choice. So you got 3 shrubs, 3 native looking things, and then 3 trees that are great at privacy screens. Into this segment, be right back with more after this. Water's garden companion plants for March are Oklahoma redbud, mountain heaths, rosemary creeper, Prescott pansies, and fanciful forsythia.
Oklahoma redbud grows to just 16 feet tall. This local native is super easy to grow.
Vibrant red flowers cloak the branches of early spring.
Luscious heart-shaped leaves emerge with a soft pink tinge that matures to a vibrant green.
Shop the brightest blooming trees in store or online at watersgardencenter.com in Prescott.
You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com. You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain and the Top 10 Gardener podcast. Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show.
And we are back in the studio with Lisa Waters Lain. She comes each week with your gardening questions. What are people talking about out in the gardens? And this weekend, over hot dogs and garden classes and vendors and growers, and there were a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
People, the gardeners are anxious. They want to be out. They are tired of they're tired of the cold.
Yeah.
They want their plants. They're thinking, sipping tea and watching hummingbirds, not sleeting on the side of the windows in their house. So it's kind of exciting.
Spring in the mountains. You never know what you're going to get.
It's one of those things. The Midwest folks, they get fooled, and the tropical people.
Right.
Actually, anyone that's not from here gets tricked. So we don't slowly ramp up to spring. It warms up a couple degrees every week, and then finally it's spring, and then it doesn't freeze anymore, and it keeps going. No, it violently gets nicer. So we're going from 20 to it's going to be 70 for 3 days. That's back to 30. That's back up to 65. That's back down to, and we violently approach spring. Right. And there could be sleet and snow and stuff in between.
Sure.
So that's the average frost date, or the last frost date of spring for most of us tuning into this area is that first week in May. Okay. You folks over in the Verde, you're so special. Maybe they're the last couple days of April,
nice.
But basically we're all the same. We're not Prescott Valley. I love those folks. They always think,
we're warmer.
So much different than Prescott. You are not. You're just down the freeway. You're the same exact as all of us. We're up at this high elevation. It's the elevation that does it. Just goes extreme warm to extreme cold. So get plants that can adapt to that.
Right.
And there are plants that can adapt to that. And you're seeing them bloom all around the region now. So
I do get asked that a lot. There were, we know we're going to get more freezes. Is it okay to plant? Well, I guess it comes down to, don't plant a tomato plant.
No.
But you can put your trees, some of your perennials, your shrubs, lilacs, forsythia. You can plant all those things now, and they're fine with it.
It's the best time to plant evergreens. I mean,
yeah.
Spruce and pine and cedar, cypress, junipers, this is the time. Fruit trees, this is your best time. I know they say fall is for planting fruit trees, but you know what? There's not that many choices.
Right.
You got to water them. So you have way more choice. All the cocktail trees are available now. I don't have those in the fall. They're available now. So now's the time before they leaf, before they flower is your peak time. So I guess it depends. Everyone wants to start, the novices, they want to start tomatoes in March.
Right.
I'm going, you're going to see more frost. And if you look at a tomato plant cold, it's going to die. So we try to hold folks back. There's no holding people back. They just kind of go. In fact, remind Amy to make sure we get more tomatoes. We need more. We need tomatoes now because people are going to buy them.
And I always have people every year. Well, this is my third crop. You gotta go, okay.
We try to bring in variety tomatoes. I mean, big sizes that are a little bigger because bigger is tougher. And we bring them in not for the mass gardener. We're bringing it in for that retired gardener. And this is their thing they do. They plant it in a container and they have it in the garage at night. And every day they go and they roll it out into the sunshine and they roll it back in and they protect it. And then they do this to get, 1 or 2 tomatoes going early, and then they'll plant all the rest of them later. Yeah. So it's those kind of folks. It's funny. Gardeners are
interesting.
They are interesting characters, every single one of us.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Ready for some questions?
Yeah, do it. Go for it.
Okay.
We're in the zone.
So Melinda would like to know, do I still have time to put out wildflower seed? And if so, how heavy do you seed? Do you put like thick, can't see the ground coverage, sparse? How do you seed?
So Melinda, great question. You have time. Go for it. You have until really the end of April. It can be dicey depending on where you're at, elevation and stuff, but really you need freeze and thaw for your wildflowers. And we have that till the end of April, as we just mentioned that. So depending on where you're at, go for it. You should feel a little pressure to get the seed down kind of right away. So this weekend, come down. We'll help you pick the 4 native varieties that we put together here. We sell it in bulk. Now, going back to how far does each seed go? You don't put it on very heavy. It's not like lawn seed. You're not putting 8 pounds per 100 square feet. It's just like ounces. Because how big is a poppy plant? One seed's going to form one poppy plant, which is probably 6 by 6 by 6. So you're seeing how quickly you can fill up echinacea the same way. They get even a little larger. Gaillardias, even larger. And so your seed, you're trying to think through the plant mix or wildflower blend. When it gets done, are the plants spaced? So on average, you have about an ounce per 100 square feet. I mean, we sell it by scoops, and it's like a quarter tablespoon, teaspoon,
it's a quarter cup
goes per. Do you remember how many square feet that is?
150.
150 square feet for a scoop. And so can you go a little bit heavier just in case the birds eat some, or I made a mistake? I didn't really scarify my soil correctly. I didn't open up the earth so it would receive the seed. Could you put it a little heavier? Maybe, but I wouldn't go crazy.
Right.
What I tell folks is take your hummingbird mix. I want to attract more butterflies. We've got a mix for that. But then you also like poppies? Well, you might take a scoop of the hummingbird and butterfly mix and add a scoop of the poppy mix. And you can blend those and kind of shake and bake them and then spread that out. Usually you'll put a layer of compost, what we call premium mulch. We screen it down real tight. You just put it over as thin as you can over that seed, and that should be good to go. But yeah, Linda, great question. Your timing is perfect. Go for it.
Okay. Next question is from Shelley. She says, what's the difference between an Atlas cedar and a Deodar cedar? I'm looking for a large tree to plant as a screen.
Yeah, that's good.
And do you have any other recommendations?
Yeah, Shelley, great question. You've been doing your homework. I can tell. That's a great question. So Atlas cedar, that's on the courthouse. That's the courthouse tree. So 100 and something years ago, when we became a state, they planted 2 Atlas cedars down there as a celebration. And the largest one, as you look at Bucky O'Neill looking towards the courthouse on Gurley Street, the biggest tree on the left-hand side, that's an Atlas cedar. So it's a big trunk. Like you can't put your arms around it. Of course, it's 100 years old. It's now, I don't know how tall it is, but it's tall, big. I mean, it's like way above, like I can't even tell how big it is. It's so big. That's when they light up often with at Christmas, one that dances around, that kind of stuff. That's an Atlas cedar. Interesting. One that's on the backside. This is just trivia, just while we're in Prescott. The biggest tree on the courthouse by far is a redwood tree. It's on the other side of the courthouse in the middle of the lawn area. That biggest trunk, it's so big, it just has this big green canopy over you. They've limbed it up some so you can play and enjoy the lawn areas underneath it. That's a redwood. So you can plant that too. The difference between Deodar and Atlas cedar. Okay, Deodar cedar is kind of more green. Atlas cedar is more blue. The Atlas cedar has more layering, like a Christmas tree, more swooping branches, I think. Deodar cedar has more softer swooping branches. And so out of the two, which one grows faster? They're probably both pretty fast. Deodar cedar is a little bit more popular only because as they're young, they're fuller. They look like they have more girth, more size to them. It's just a way they grow in a container. Cedars don't fill out nicely. They need to be in the ground for a season, and then all of a sudden they go whoop, and they fill in just like that. I mean, these are big, thick, we're talking 50, 60, 70-foot trees by 25-foot wide, big swooping branches. Both are great choices. They're all both going to naturalize. There's probably more Deodar cedars just because when you look at them in the tree racks, the Deodar has more of a yellow-green look, but it has a little bit more. They still aren't full, but they have fuller look. The Atlas cedar is kind of a trunk with a few branches coming off, and you have to envision what it's going to look like. Look at the courthouse, and you'll see it. We're out of time.
Oh,
Thank
gosh.
you, Lisa.
Okay.
That's it for this segment. Be right back. Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back after this.
Growing up in Prescott, we knew spring was here when my grandmother's lilacs bloomed. I'm Lisa Waters Lain, and my grandmother would be thrilled with the new Bloomerang purple lilacs at Waters Garden Center. They don't just bloom once in spring, they bloom again in summer. Mine bloomed 3 times last year, making spring last well into fall, and just $29.99. Come check out all the heavenly new sights and scents that are making this spring the most beautiful ever. Lilacs like Grandma used to grow and better. Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to Ken Lain, aka the Top 10 Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Waters Family Garden Center. Listen daily as he answers the top 10 questions of the week, streaming on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Garden Show with garden expert Ken Lain. Join the conversation daily as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Or visit face-to-face throughout the week where he can be found at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
So the yards are coming alive. It is spring in the mountains of Arizona. And what's in bloom now? And so this is a great time to walk your neighborhood and see what that forsythia looks like, to walk and see what purple leaf plums, that pink blooming tree, before it gets a single leaf, it's covered in pink flowers. The older varieties or certain original varieties have white flowers or kind of an apple blossom color, but those are all prunus, that prunus family or plum varieties of plant, not so much edibles. The edible plums, those are not in bloom yet. They'll bloom in here in 2-3 weeks. Kind of first part of April, they'll start to bloom. But the ornamental fruit trees, the ornamental plums, they bloom early. That's also a reason they don't produce fruit, because their blooms are out there. They're exposed to more frost, and generally nature takes all the fruit away. So you got a beautiful tree, the perfect shape, great color in the fall, in the spring, in the summer. It's perfect if you don't want the fruit. If you want the fruit, yeah, plant a elephant heart or Santa Rosa or Japanese beauty. These are all plants that can be planted now, but they bloom just a little bit later. They're related to the ornamental plums, but they bloom just a little bit later, and they actually produce a big, juicy, plump plum. Oh, my mouth just watered thinking about them. As a kid, I used to go out to my grandparents. Every summer, I went to my grandparents' farm in Georgia, Noonan, Georgia. If you know where that is, that's just west of Atlanta. And so my grandfather was pig, chicken, industrial size, like silos of feed kind of farmer. That's where I spent all summer. So we take the train down, or we drive down from Virginia south to the grandparents. That's where I grew up. But my grandmother would allow me to take the salt shaker with me wherever I wanted to go. And I'd take them out to the gardens, pick fresh peanuts, pick fresh cucumbers with a little salt on it. Oh my gosh. Beans and green plums of all things. It seems kind of odd, but you take a plum that's just before it's ripening, add just a touch of salt, and oh my gosh, it melts in your mouth. My water's, it just tastes so good. Memories, things we grow up with. And so, where was I going? What's in bloom? Gotcha. Forsythia, a shrub about head height, bright solar yellow. I mean, it's intense yellow. Again, before the leaves come on, it's got this flower for about a month, and then it starts to leaf out, and then you just have this beautiful, beautiful shrub. It's nice and green. Then the fall color is gold again, like aspen gold. What else? Oh, out in Prescott Valley, you all have more going on. So you're about 5 days ahead of Prescott. I'm kind of jealous. And so you all have really, and you've lined your streets with trees. The city of Prescott Valley just does such a good job with their trees. And so lots of red buds, purple leaf plums, forsythia, lilacs will be right after that. So there's all things going on out there. And so blooming trees, if they're blooming right now, they're almost guaranteed ornamental trees, not fruiting trees. These are just to be pretty without producing a fruit. And so that's kind of what you're seeing. And now's the time to plant all of those things. And so you're seeing the best selection at the garden center, and you can actually see what they look like out in the yard. A mature specimen, in about 5 years, that's what it looks like. I want one, or it's too small, or it's too big. And we can recommend a different variety that fits that spec, that part of the landscape for yours. That's one where if you see it out in your neighborhood, take a picture. And then take a picture of in your yard where you think you might want one. Bring those to us. We go, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, great, brilliant. Can I suggest maybe a little bit different one, or this a different color, or look, this is a companion with what's already growing there. We can help you with that kind of stuff. So you don't make a mistake. We can add that designer flair to your landscape. Instead of just rock, boulder, tree, 3 shrubs, we can actually get some style into your landscape. Be a game changer. All right, that's in bloom. We're in the season. Got to take a break. Be right back after this. Water's garden companion plants for March are Oklahoma redbud, mountain heaths, rosemary creeper, Prescott pansies, and fanciful forsythia.
Fanciful forsythia is a gorgeous spring shrub that explodes with masses of solar yellow flowers, followed by shiny green leaves.
Every home should have one for sheer beauty, fall color, and gentle natural care.
Shop the brightest spring bloomers in-store or online at watersgardencenter.com in Prescott. The Top 10 Gardener, your source for timely garden advice seasonally correct for the garden, guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Gardener with garden expert Ken Lain. Join him daily as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
And we're back with Lisa Waters Lain in the studio. She comes each week and just shares her garden expertise. Just gardening. The more gardeners you get in a garden to discuss how to garden in that space, the more opinions, advice, and fun, design, flair, personality you're going to see come out in that gardening. So a garden, a true garden, takes on the feeling of the artist, the designer that put those plants together. And they're trying to attract wildlife and plants and roadrunners and lizards and different kinds of flowers and butterflies that migrate and stay around and humming. It's a fun thing. And all of it's there to capture the sunlight at different times of the day. The seasons change. It's a beautiful, living, breathing piece of art when it's really done well. And so I think Lisa comes and helps us share that. I don't even know why I went on that riff.
I don't know, but I don't know what to say now. I'm done.
Okay, just inspire us to do all of that.
Okay, I'll do that.
I think that's part of what we do here is we're not just selling plants. I need a plant. Oh, I've got 2 acres of them. But I need a plant for this space that makes it special, that's unique, that's different, that my neighbors will walk by and go, wow, that is so cool. Where do you get that? How do you do that? How old is it? Share with me. How did you pull that off? And so that's what true landscaping design. And we spend more time with the flair of it than just here's 3 plants. Which one you like? Go.
Mm-hmm. Oh, are you done now?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm on a roll. Too much coffee. Here
Have
we
you
go.
not talked to
need
anybody?
another cup.
It's like, woo, he's going today, which is good. So I brought a couple plants in to show, but I also want to talk about perennial gardens, how you plan a perennial garden. But we got I'm always talking about rainbow ascot euphorbia.
Yeah.
You've probably heard me mention it like 20 times. They have a new euphorbia out. This one is Miner's Merlot.
Merlot.
So
I wonder where Miners came from. Is that the developer's
could be
name?
the developer. I have to research that.
Crazy.
But same as the rainbow ascot, it's going to be evergreen, animal resistant, but it is a beautiful kind of burgundy color, burgundy green color. A wonderful, put it together with the rainbow ascot. You talk about screaming color. It is amazing. So just a really cool new one. I wanted to show it to people, those that are watching. If you're listening, you got to come down and look at it.
It probably gets, if I can describe it, or the airway, if you're driving down the highway, heading to Costco or Trader Joe's or wherever you're heading to now, taking the kids to soccer, going to church. This plant gets up about knee high, vase shaped. It's got kind of elongated foliage, but it's deep. It's not black, but it's sure close to, it's like the top of the foliage is black. The bottom is burgundy. So you get this two-tone, very dark, rich color to it. The beauty with euphorbias they are evergreen. Animals don't eat them. So it's related to gopher plant, if you're familiar with that. That's another variety of euphorbia. It's been in bloom gopher plant's been in bloom for a month or more with these bright yellow flowers. It's a blue foliage that spreads out. This is a purple foliage. Actually, they would be striking together. The red, yellow flowers, the blue foliage with this Merlot color. Oh my God. Same companions. They like the same kind of full sun. Hit it with wind, surrounded with asphalt, kick dirt at it. It still grows easily. Looks great in a container.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to bring that in and show people.
Merlot euphorbia.
Miner's Merlot. And then just to show people, because everybody's always asking.
Yeah, that's right.
When are your California poppies coming in? Yay, we have our first load. So our first load came in. Terrific bloom, terrific color, great for those wildflower areas where you want stuff just because they'll drop seeds, so you get more next year. So terrific for those areas where you just kind of want things to be a little. What are you doing?
I'm trying to help the folks who are watching. I'm
trying to have a serious conversation.
Trying to show them the price. It's $12.99 for this beautiful, striking, stunning, like fully mature poppy thing. So, but the camera would not pick that up.
No.
So sorry.
But great for those areas kind of maybe further out from the house or where you don't get a lot of water to them because they can kind of take care of themselves. They don't need a lot of water.
And they reseed. You never get just one. You always get this one and then more almost as the season progresses. So, and then more even next year. So it's a true wild flower for the mountains of Arizona.
Definitely. And then we're also starting to get some delphiniums in. Yay. I love delphiniums. They also kind of announced that spring. Delphiniums are they can be purple, they can be blue, they can be white, they can be a combination. They send a beautiful spike up over very delicate foliage. So great for those perennial beds. Likes a little bit of a shadier area. So as we go into the heat, but it's a wonderful spring, early summer bloomer that gives you a lot of nice color.
Hummingbirds. This is taller, so this will get easily well above knee high. So, and not quite hip high, but it's in that 2 to 3 foot range with the spikes. And has multiple spikes coming up, and then each up at the top of each of these spikes are these great big, colorful, kind of trumpet shaped flowers that you're seeing. So this is kind of the first of many hundreds of varieties of colors of perennials. They kind of set the stage. So California poppies and delphiniums kind of keep going. They've got bright colors to them.
They do. Very, very pretty.
And delphiniums, if I recall, rabbits don't eat that. Is that right?
It should be resistant. It should be.
They'll have a sick tummy if they start to eat it. Probably won't kill them, but anyway.
But, of those things. So perennial flowers. The reason I'm running out of time, but I'll quickly hit a few things. But in our yard, we have this section of our yard that's just, it's a weird little section up against the fence, our neighbor's fence. And over the years, we've had vegetable gardens in there. I don't know, we've thrown a few plants in there.
It's experimental. It's fun. It's
but
extra.
It needs some help.
Okay. I'm sensing some plants coming home this weekend.
Yeah, probably. So it started me thinking about how you design a perennial garden.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit on a few of those things that are important. And the first being is know your zone, know where you're at. Now, most of us are in the Quad City area, the high desert, mountainous area. So the plants that you can grow here maybe aren't the same as the ones you grew down in Phoenix or in Southern Cal, or maybe they are. You just got to put them in different positions. But know your zone. Know which way your perennial garden is facing. Is it facing north? Is it west? Is it east? So those are things important. Those are things you want to know when you're planting that bed. You also want to know the plants that you're thinking about putting in there. How tall and wide at maturity are they? Everybody sees this cute little flower at the garden center and they bring it home. And then the next year it's taking over their entire
Vinca, introduced in the middle of the gardens, and there's nothing left but Vinca.
Yeah. So you want some good knowledge about your plants, which is why you should shop at an independent garden center, because we have people that know, and we have great signage. I mean, it'll tell you how tall, how wide, likes the sun, likes the shade. So information is king, because you've got to know what the plant you're looking at, what's it going to be like in a few years. You also need to know bloom time. So like we were talking, the delphinium, they're a spring, early summer bloomer. So in your perennial beds, you want to kind of have a seasonality to it. So you have those spring bloomers, those summer bloomers, those fall colors, even winter. You want some color.
That's your euphorbia.
Euphorbia.
That's great winter color.
So kind of getting the seasonality to it. So if you're looking for spring blooming plants, now is the time to be at the garden center and looking at those plants, because we're not going to have them at the end of May. We have them
all the
now.
summer things.
Right. So think about that seasonality. You don't have to plant your bed all at once. You can plant as the season goes along, and you can see what you like. Also know what the plant's needs are. So we were talking about the euphorbia, which loves the heat, loves the sun, loves to be dry. You wouldn't want to plant that next to the delphinium, because they have different needs. Delphiniums likes a little moisture, likes a little shade. So think about the combos, the plants that you're putting together. Are they going to be complementary with each other? Because not all of them are. And then also know, do they need shade? Do they need sun? Do they need a lot of water? Do they like to go dry? Because that will make a big difference about what you put in there. And we're almost done.
I think you're there. I know you got 3 more pages to share with folks, but come talk to Lisa afterwards and she can kind of hone you right in. Or better yet, just peruse the perennials that are here. All these are here at the garden center now. The poppies, delphiniums, the euphorbias. Check out the new ones and the old ones. They're rainbow ascots. They're all good to be planted now. But Ken and Lisa Lain, we're here at Waters Garden Center. We love helping plants. We love helping people and pairing them together so they all thrive. Be right back after this.
Growing up in Prescott, we knew spring was here when my grandmother's lilacs bloomed. I'm Lisa Waters Lain, and my grandmother would be thrilled with the new bloomerang purple lilacs at Waters Garden Center. They don't just bloom once in spring, they bloom again in summer. Mine bloomed 3 times last year, making spring last well into fall, and just $29.99. Come check out all the heavenly new sights and scents that are making this spring the most beautiful ever. Lilacs like Grandma used to grow, and better. Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Additional shows of this podcast, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook, Instagram at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show with Ken Lain. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
And we are back on the Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain. We're here every week talking about gardening, but sometimes you get a unique person that comes to the garden center to train your staff. So Aaron Lamb with Trees of Corrales, he's out of New Mexico. He's got one of the best, I'd say, boutique garden grower, unique grower, native, your stuff I can't find anywhere else. And you grow it with love. And so we sell a lot of their plants here at the garden center because it's the same altitude, same sun, wind. Their plants just thrive here. So Aaron Lamb, Trees of Corrales, welcome to the Mountain Gardener.
Well, thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Going in right away, you saying, so Trees of Corrales is kind of on that zone of 6-7 on that cusp. And it lines up just perfectly with Prescott. And one of the nice things is that when we ship stuff to you, those plants are ready to go in the ground right now. Yeah. So even when we have this really cold weather that we're having with the storm coming through Prescott right now, the plants from Trees of Corrales are ready to go in the ground. They are not going to flinch. They're not coming out of hot houses. So they are going to be acclimated and they're going to, ease into your landscape and be happier in the ground than they are in those pots. Yeah. And that is definitely a nice plus that we are at the same zone and growing stuff, for this region.
Your stuff lives. I mean, I hardly ever get a return because everything's warranted. But I don't have to worry about your stuff. It always just lives. It just does. And it's drought hardy stuff. It's just great quality. And there is a different grade. And a lot of folks don't realize that there's different grades. And we grade them out as an industry going, this is an A, this is a B, this is contractor grade. All they got to do is meet a bid price. They don't care what it looks like. Just make sure it's in a 5-gallon bucket. Size doesn't matter of the plant. That's a C contractor grade. So you only grow the top end, which is why I love seeing your stuff show. Every time your truck shows up, I go, whoa, that's cool. You just had winter jasmine show up. I haven't seen that in a few years. That is so exciting. Yeah. Only from Trees of Corrales.
Well, and I think it's one of those plants that we used to see a long time ago in the nursery industry, and it just kind of phased out for one reason or another. But winter jasmine is a great one. It is, for those of you that don't know it, it's roughly going to be about 4x4, can be pruned, but it is the earliest blooming shrub that we should have in the landscape. And it should even pop, right before, say, the manzanitas start to bloom, definitely before forsythia blooms. A lot of people will mistake that yellow flower for forsythia. It's a slightly smaller flower. But winter jasmine is kind of a broom-like plant. So like your Scotch or sweet brooms or your Spanish broom has kind of that type of look to it with a little bit more flow and character, but a great one for having flowers early and getting all seasons.
Every yard ought to have at least one. And so I've had mine for years. And it is February. It's blooming. It's snowing outside. It's blooming. It's a winter bloomer. It's kind of announces that spring's coming even before, or it announces winter's ending. How about that? And then forsythia kind of announces spring is here. They kind of are in rotation there. A congratulations, I hear, goes out. You're a newer father. You got a little one at home, right?
Just had another
do
child.
Share.
Little boy. He's 12 weeks old.
Nice. Congratulations.
And, it was unexpected.
Healthy. All is good.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Big guy. He's already pushing into 6-month close.
That's awesome.
So
he's doing we're good. On solid foods. Dad, pass the burgers.
He might be one of my best attributes with the landscaping help in the future. So
oh my gosh.
In the garden.
That's great. How many kids you have all together?
Two kids.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think 3 of my 4 kids were all accidents. So including the twins. That was a business trip to Vegas. Kind of came back with twins. Blessing all the way. Huge.
Definitely. Yes.
So how long you been working for Trees of Corrales? Tell us about Trees of Corrales, that farm. Why did you choose New Mexico over someplace else, Arizona or Texas or some other place?
Well, in terms of myself, I grew up in Santa Fe and then went to the University of New Mexico. So I was down in Albuquerque.
Gotcha.
And my background was in herpetology, the study of reptiles and amphibians, and have been doing a lot of field work, summer work, throughout New Mexico and some other surrounding states. And with all that, kind of was very fond of the plant life and all of the diversity throughout the Southwest. And just like here in Prescott, there's just amazing native plant diversity, and that's kind of what then drew me into plants. My mom grew up on a farm, so I think I kind of had some of that in my blood.
Ditto.
But I feel like the natural world has kind of brought me full circle, and worked in the retail sector for a long time, and then went to Corrales in August of 2020. And it's been a nice move. I love plants. I love to garden. And one of the funnest things I get to do is go see all of my customers' garden centers and look at all the cool plants that everybody brings in.
So how long have you been in the, let's say, in this industry? So retail to growing.
It's been, I think 07 or 08. So
really?
it's not
15 years, whatever, 17, whatever that is. That's a long time.
It's
in your blood.
It is.
And you're a young man. You got another 30 years to go.
Yeah, probably. But I'm just a big plant person. And so it's just very enjoyable all the time when you enjoy what you're doing.
It's not work. So. I still love going to work every day. So something you may not know, folks tuning in, is Aaron grows or has a pet tortoise. Just one or two, or how many?
I just have one tortoise. I do have some box turtles, but
gotcha. Tortoise. And so you got them when it was small, and now they are 25 years later. How much does that tortoise weigh? Have you weighed him?
I would have to weigh again, but she's at least like 60 pounds or something.
60 pounds, a big girl. Yeah.
It's becoming a little bit. I bring her in, and I'll bring her in the winter and put her in a container in the garage just to keep her insulated.
Yeah.
It's getting a little.
They just hibernate there in the bucket, going, I'm sleeping it out.
I keep those temps, about mid 40s to low 50s, and just fine with that. But,
So surprisingly, a number of people have tortoise in their gardens. They do the same thing. It's surprising how many people come into the garden center and go, I need some food for my tortoise. What plants do you suggest? Any recommendations you could share with maybe the audience going, hey, if you've got a tortoise or think about a tortoise, you should have this in the yard more than lettuce.
Yeah, I do think the nice thing about having a tortoise, like if you had chickens, you can use a lot of your scrap of veggies and fruits to get rid of to them, but they will definitely eat different grasses.
Gotcha.
I have a little tiny bit of turf, and that I don't have to mow it because that tortoise just
gotcha. Really?
But I was talking with Ken earlier, and there's a panicum, a switchgrass called heavy metal. That's a really pretty blue. And I had to finally basically put a border around it because that
to fence the tortoise out.
Just not leave it alone.
That's hilarious.
So with that said, if you have some areas that you need to be kind of mowed down, I think they can help you get some of those weeds, especially mustard.
Do they keep the bugs at bay too, like grasshoppers and that kind of stuff, or they just mainly?
The native box turtles do.
They do.
They'll eat tons of insects, but the tortoise really is primarily, maybe every once in a while they'll eat something else, but mostly all, vegetation. And
they like grassy kind of stuff. It sounds like
definitely.
So
I did have some sedums they mowed down a little bit, and there's some stuff I didn't want them to go to. I think the neat thing about a tortoise is that they won't eat stuff in general if it's toxic or if it's not real palatable for them.
Gotcha.
They may take a little nibble, but then they start leaving it alone.
They know.
And so it's kind of, in my backyard, the tortoise has free reign, but I do have certain areas kind of strategically bordered with rock or whatever.
Yeah. And so a tortoise can't go over rocks or boulders, whatever you're doing.
As long as they're big enough. Yeah. As long as they're big enough. But yes, eventually they start they're like little tanks. So they figure it out.
That's right.
They figure out
and they're smart. They got all afternoon to figure it out.
Yes. That is very true. They'll stay at it.
So if you had only one plant in your backyard, no tortoises in mind, just you, what would be your absolute favorite plant? You just couldn't, you have a new house and I must have this plant in the backyard. What is that one plant that you just love the most?
That is a really hard question, Ken. But to put something out there, I would, wow, that's just a challenging question.
Just the first thing that comes to mind.
I personally really like broadleaf evergreens.
Okay.
And so things like, say, the manzanitas are really, really nice. Arizona rosewood. There's some
Sure.
different unique natives that we have that are broadleaf that are different. A lot of people like boxwoods. They like those traditional looking evergreen plants. Manzanitas can work so well in the
So much
landscape.
better. Yeah.
And you do want to have good drainage, but for a place like Prescott, for a place like the, higher elevation desert Southwest, they are just a better choice. And Waters has a very good selection of all that.
We
stuff
got
right
all the sizes. We got the big one, the medium, couple of medium, and the low growing ground cover ones. So yeah, you bet. We're trying to introduce more of those. Wow, just like that, Aaron. Look at that. Out of time. My goodness. I appreciate you being here and coming to Prescott and training my staff and making my team better so that we can make the local gardeners better, so that your knowledge passes through us to our community. Appreciate what you do for us.
Well, thank you, Ken.
Aaron Lamb, Trees of Corrales. We'll be right back after this. Waters Garden companion plants for March are Oklahoma redbud, mountain heaths, rosemary creeper, Prescott pansies, and fanciful forsythia.
Oklahoma redbud grows to just 16 feet tall. This local native is super easy to grow.
Vibrant red flowers cloak the branches of early spring.
Luscious heart-shaped leaves emerge with a soft pink tinge that matures to a vibrant green.
Shop the brightest blooming trees in store or online at watersgardencenter.com in Prescott.
You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Thanks for tuning in to the Top 10 Garden Show. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Gardener with garden expert Ken Lain. Join him daily as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
So last weekend was kind of a bust. So we had our 62nd spring open house, 62 years in business. I'm not 62, so I didn't start the business. Lisa's father did. And so my father-in-law started back in 1962, and we celebrate every spring, the kind of start of spring. It kind of gets us ready, gets us to where the place looks great. We fill it up with plants because you got a leading edge, or you're just kind of starting that, especially the deciduous things that they lose their leaves through winter. Those are the things that bloom often the best in early spring. We load up with the forsythias and quince and lilacs and all these other spring bloomers. Wisterias, there's a new wisteria. It's white. It's magnificent. It smells so good. And the buds are ginormous. We load up the garden center. Well, it was kind of a bust. Last weekend, it was snowy, sleety, rainy. My poor growers. They live in greenhouses down at a little lower elevation. They came up to Prescott, graciously came here from all over the Southwest, and they were freezing. Oh, I had to give them clothes because they were not used to this kind of cold. Of course, the staff, all the Prescottonians were going, yeah, it's normal. It's just how spring is. But they weren't going. So traffic was a little light because it was pretty nasty. So we basically kicked the can to this weekend. We're going to have Spring Open House 2.0 this weekend. So the class, this weekend, the garden class, we're going deep into, let me see what that's going to be. Hold on, I'm trying to get there. If you want to see that, watersgardencenter.com. There's a class button right on the front, proper planting. So if you want your plants to grow fast, not just to sit there and look at you for years, but actually grow and thrive and expand, there's a technique. We're going to go deep into how to really plant shrubs, trees, evergreens, vines, that new wisteria that's white blooming. We'll show you how to plant that and just have it thrive for you. The 30th, that's going to be growing better peonies for spring. If you've wanted to dabble with perennial spring bloomers, start with peony because they're one of the longest lived peonies or flowers in the garden. You plant them where you're going to keep them for 50 years because they're going to compete with trees on their longevity. In fact, you could probably keep them going. If you divide them, you could probably keep them going for much, much longer. We'll go over the varieties. There are different varieties, colors, how to plant them. There's a technique to plant those where they take off. And where maybe you can put them in containers, raised beds, that kind of stuff. That's the 30th. And then the first class of April, It's the 6th, lilacs for better fragrance. We've got 10 varieties of lilacs. We're going to share all the varieties, all the colors, the shapes, the heights, go deep into lilacs. That's the whole class schedule. Not all of it. Keeps going from there. Herbs and veggies, the whole thing. Take a look. If you're a Facebooker, go to the events page, website, watersgardencenter.com. Go to the class button. It'll be right there. If you're looking, you can find it. Every Saturday at 9:30, we have a class. They're free. We want you to be a better gardener. We want you to have success. We're not just selling plants here at Waters Garden Center. We're selling garden experiences, success, green thumbs, and that's learned communally. Gardening is very social, so we like to share that. And so I mentioned too that the book, if you're on the website, I did write a privacy screen book. So it's privacy, your secret garden, and the plants, how to space them, what varieties. It's maybe 50, 60 pages. It's not in depth, but it's all of our local stuff. It's not just Google regurgitated. It's actually written for us. It's our plants and how we plant it in our soil and how we fertilize it with our stuff. That's at watersgardencenter.com under the Learn button. Right at the top, you'll see Learn. It's right there. We try to make it easy because we want you to be successful. Throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center, and we love talking to fans of the show.
If life is a bowl of cherries, why not make them the biggest, sweetest cherries ever?
Waters Garden Center is super excited to introduce our new organic fruit and vegetable plant food.
This fertilizer has the bonus of added calcium that gives fruit trees and veggies an extra boost to produce healthy, abundant crops.
Feed your plants now to help them thrive and grow more fruits than ever, and just $27 for a 20-pound bag.
Safe, natural, organic fruit and vegetable plant food only at Waters Garden Center.
If you want a more fruitful garden, increased success, and landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Top 10 Garden Podcast. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.